Events such as today are critically important. We've heard denunciations and calls to action, but indignation and condemnation are only a salve. The underlying problem remains, and the most effective step in confronting it is recognising its origins and pervasiveness. Speaking as a Senate citizen rather than a judge, I would argue that the position we now find ourselves in can be traced back to a diminution in a sense of cohesive national identity and a related soft revolution in values within numerous institutions, but particularly in our schools and universities. Consistently with what we just heard in the education panel, the reality is that we have experienced the actualisation of what Gramsci foreshadowed in the 1960s as a long march through many of our institutions, including our education system. I'm not going to speak about some of the appalling manifestations of anti-Semitism that we just heard spoken about, but something somewhat more subtle. What was often celebrated as a push for equal rights and tolerance in tertiary institutions has now metastasised into the current state of many of our legal, humanities and social science faculties. A status quo that restricts debate and ostracises or cancels those who do not demonstrate fealty to the prevalent ideological orthodoxy. Although there are honourable exceptions, these faculties, once a platform for the free exchange of ideas, often promote an agenda that is not only politically charged but intolerant. The University of Sydney Act expressly provides that the object of the university, of which I'm a graduate, is the promotion of scholarship, research, free inquiry in the interaction of research and teaching and academic excellence. Other universities have similarly expressed objects. But despite these worthy goals and the effort of some well-meaning academics, we would be naive in failing to recognise that the liberal arts have increasingly become sanctuaries for a prevailing pattern of thought that has tolerated, fostered and hence facilitated anti-Semitism. To a significant extent, the so-called progressive forces control the arts, humanities and legal curriculum. Often they control the student governments and staff unions and, most disturbingly, liberal arts academics and those influenced by them can control the dialogue in a way that stifles diverse perspectives and leaves little room for genuine intellectual debate. Diversity of thought is largely absent. According to Associate Professor Salvatore Berbones, shortly after the appalling incidents of which we've remembered today, at least 90 current or former University of Sydney academics signed the so-called BDS pledge, and more supported it less publicly. Despite this, many acquiesce in pretending everything is fine. But is it not an outrage that another leading Australian university has set up a high-security safe room for Jewish students? This room, according to recent reports, is a location that has not been disclosed, has security features that can only be accessed by students, I assume Jewish students, using a swipe card. Those students were understandably feeling threatened by, among other things, being forced to endure continued demonstrations calling for the destruction of Israel and confronting posters depicting standard tropes such as Jews as thieves with long noses.